Hey everybody, we're back today with a look at the Who. Now, in my own videos, I've done a lot of the British invasion groups already. I've done a little bit on the Beatles. Gary and I have done the Stones, the Kinks. We did Led Zeppelin, which of course is an offshoot of the Yardbirds, all those British bands. But the one missing, the big one, was the Who. So we're going to take care of that today. I'm here with Glen Kellaway from the basement. First time working with Glen. Glen, great to have you here with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Pleasure. Gary, physical format rock and roll, my usual partners here again. Hey, Gary.
Hey, good to see you.
And of course, Steve, all the world's a stage. Great to have all three of you guys, all, of course, lovers of the Who. And we're going to tackle this subject. The Who, of course, legends in rock and roll, classic rock. What can you say about them? Aggressive, angry, a little bit boisterous, brooding, rebellious, all adjectives that fit the bill. Teenage angst. They have that macho attitude a little bit. The early punk elements are there in the Who. You can see them bashing their instruments and destroying their amps and things like that early on, getting all that stuff out of their system. It was outrageous at the time. And then, of course, they launched into the concept album, which was a big thing, rock operas. They've done double albums, live albums. They played Woodstock. In my opinion, they have one of the great albums in rock history, and Who's Next? It rivals Led Zeppelin 4 and Dark Side of the Moon. Just landmark album. So they're giants. They're right up there with the best of them. And they continued on until, of course, Keith Moon passed away in 1978. And you can see a slight decline after that. That's just my opinion. You guys may have a differing opinion. Anyway, we're going to do our top 10 song list. We're going to start it with Glen Kellaway, and he's going to do 10 through 6, and we'll work our way around. Glen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First of all, I thought this was going to be easy when you first said do top 10 Who songs. I wrote down 10, and then I started really listening to a lot of Who. Not that I don't listen to them anyway. And then I'm going, man, what about that song? What about that song?
I know.
Now I got a list of 30, and I'm going, these are all great songs.
I had 26. I had 26 myself that were in the first cut, and I had to chop it down. So I know what you mean.
I'm still chopping 5 minutes before we started. I was still going, no, that should be number 4. That should be number 2. No, I got to put that at number 10. It's just, okay, so let's just get started here. My number 10, The Kids Are All Right.
Love it.
I think was recorded in 65, 66.
Yeah.
65.
And 65. And is it on the My Generation album?
It is
Probably
on My Generation.
So. Yeah.
On their first record, right?
Yeah, I don't have that. I don't have that
My
album.
Generation.
Yeah, I only have it on the which is a great comp. The Who Hits 50. Although but so I've been listening to this like a lot over the last couple of days, going, oh man, there's another one. So Kids Are All Right, number 10. Number 9, which might be ranked higher in a lot of lists, My Generation. Talk about teenage angst. You mentioned
Exactly.
that might be the poster child for teenage angst.
I think so.
Yeah, just a great song. I mean, it could be number 1. I mean, it's just, you could argue it could be right up there.
Yeah.
My number 8, the title song from this album, Who Are You? Killer song.
Love it.
I hate to swear, but when he says, who the fuck are you? I just love that.
Everybody loves that part.
Number 7. Not my favorite Who album, but one of my favorite Who songs, Eminence Front from It's Hard.
Yeah.
Killer song. Kind of a dance. It's kind of a funky dance song or something. It's a bit different for the Who.
It's very different for the Who. I agree with you on that one.
Well, it's definitely, they could not have done that song and have it sound that way if Keith Moon was in the band. Because he would have not kept, he would not have
That song
done
has a
that
groove.
steady beat.
Yeah. He would have been going, what the? Yeah, you're right. Okay, and my number 6, the finale for Tommy, Hear Me, Feel Me, Touch Me, Looking at You, I Feel the Music.
Yeah, classic.
Great song. And you mentioned Woodstock Performance. I mean, they do a great job of that on the Woodstock Performance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's my 10 to 6.
I think I had 2 of those somewhere along my in my list somewhere. So that's very good.
I have
two of those also.
I have
Gary,
one.
you have
same
one?
spot. One of those, it's in the exact same spot he had his.
All
Okay.
right, Gary's going to go next.
All right, my number 10 is this is off of the Endless Wire album from 2006, and that's
Wow.
A Man in a Purple Dress.
Woo.
I love that song. It's an acoustic number. I like the way that Roger Daltrey sounds, very old and ragged. I kind of like that version of Roger Daltrey's voice in a way also. And just the whole aspect of the song talking about not needing a middleman to talk to God in a way. You know, Pete Townshend's basically saying, you know, all these different priests and rabbis, whatever, it's all kind of a bunch of crap to an extent is what the song is about. Number 9, same as Glen, My Generation. What a great song. Basically, maybe the first punk song,
Yeah.
depending on how you look at it. It's got the whole stuttering lyrics in there, the vocals, and of course, it's got that great bass solo.
Love
Got to
that.
put that in there. Number 8, I put The Real Me off of Quadrophenia. More great bass work. Starting out, actually, the bass is great throughout that whole song. It's like playing lead. It's a real rocker. I love it. The whole thing of I think that's not the opening track, but the second song or whatever, but basically setting up the premise of this character having 4 different personalities. You know, can you see the real me? That's what it's all about. 7, Substitute. Love that song. That's one of their best early songs in my mind. I feel like I'm talking about the bass a lot because this one, that solo is actually a bass solo. That is what's in that song. And that's one that I don't always like Roger's voice as much in some of the real early stuff, but that one I do. I really love the way he sounds on that. And number 6 is in a way kind of cheating, but I'm going with, because I know that this is not a Who song, it's a cover song, but their version of Young Man Blues off of Live at Leeds, to me, that is just such a rocking song. And it's a good representation. Yeah, right there. That's it is. Of the Live at Leeds album, which is probably one of the best live albums ever made. So I just, you know, well, a young man ain't got nothing in the world these days. That's just a balls to the wall rocker. I just love that song. And that might be my favorite song off that album, the way they do that. So that's my 10 through 6, Rich.
Awesome. How about you, Steve?
Well, I'm ill prepared. I thought we were going to talk about the World Health Organization. Oh, I'll just wing it. Let's see. Of Gary's, I had 2 of Gary's. But let's see. My number 10 from It's Hard, Eminence Front. To me, it's a real simple song. I mean, it just builds on it. There's nothing to that riff. That da 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 da. That's it. I mean, but I read. I have a couple books on the Who, and Pete Townsend. He can't recall exactly, you know, who or what it's in reference to, but he said his favorite line, or that I like the most, was it's clearly about the absurdity of drug-fueled grandiosity, but whether I was pointing the finger at myself or at the cocaine dealers of Miami Beach is hard to recall.
That is a great line.
Yeah.
Number 9, The Kids Are All Right. And yeah, Glenn, that was from My Generation 65. Hit number 1 in the UK, US. It just barely cracked the top 100. I think it made it to 85. That surprises me because for 1965, that is just a great pop tune.
It is.
It should have been bigger. I mean, or no, I'm sorry, I misspoke too. In the UK, it was number 41, not number 1. Because thing I couldn't believe is, you mean to tell me there were 40 other songs better than that in 1965? I don't get it. But,
I'm not buying it. Nope.
Yeah. The album hit number 5. So the album did much better than the singles from it. So let's see, number 8, Substitute. Gary just talked about it. That is, it's the first song that Pete Townsend ever produced. That did hit number 5 in the UK, but it did nothing in the US. And actually the guitar solo, that's Entwistle doing the solo. It's not Townsend.
Interesting.
But this whole song, it's one of those songs that was wrapped up in legalities. I have this book, and I'm just going to read a part from it because the story is so convoluted. And in fact, that's even how they started out. But the story behind the single of Substitute, or at least the B-side, is a convoluted one. It had been announced that the follow-up single to My Generation would be the Talmy produced song Circles on the Brunswick label. The band released Substitute instead with a re-recorded version of Circles on the B-side, retitled Instant Party. Talmy claimed copyright infringement, and a high court injunction forced the withdrawal of Substitute. To sidestep the ruling, Substitute was re-released the following week with a new B-side, Waltz for a Pig, credited to the Who Orchestra. So because of that, that album never got a proper re-release until like 2002. So it just sat there on the shelves. Nobody could do anything about it. Shell Talmy, he held the original session tapes. That was the big problem. So they had fired him. Kit Lambert, the Who's manager, fired Talmy because he was producer, and Talmy, he sued for breach of contract, and due to the litigation, he held on to that re-release until 2002. So it's a long story to tell you my number 8 song. But number 7.
Good choice.
Yeah, number 7. My first of many songs from Who's Next, Behind Blue Eyes. I mean, really, I could have taken all 9 songs from Who's Next.
Yeah.
And probably and then probably joined together, and that would have been a great top 10 for me. You know, this is another one of those songs where they're so perfect at starting out as a ballad and turning it into a rock song.
Yeah.
And then bring it back down again right at the end. Always love that line. If I swallowed anything evil, put your finger down my throat.
Yep.
Give me a blanket. Keep me warm. Let me wear your coat. That is number 7. And then number 6, it's a single from December 67. I Can See for Miles.
Yep.
Townsend, when he wrote this, he thought it would be the Who's first number 1 single. So he held it back from the previous album. But this only made it to number 10. And it's another good description by him. He says it's really a song about a jealous man with exceptionally good eyesight.
Yeah. That's the Reader's Digest condensed version right there. Yeah.
Yeah. He's they rarely played it live because they never thought they could pull off the vocals and all the guitars that were layered in it. And to me, that is just a great song to listen to on headphones, because really those drums, and I don't even care if it's Keith Moon playing the drums live, I don't think you'd be able to duplicate what they did in the studio either. So
yeah,
that is my 10 through 6.
I had 3 of them, I think. The 2 that I really liked that I didn't put on my list, so melodic, are Substitute and The Kids Are All Right. Love both of those songs. They just missed the cut. My number 10 is My Generation. I had to have it on the list because it's so iconic in their repertoire here. Youthful rebellion, early punk, like you said, and that stutter. You got to, it's so, it stands out so much, you know. People put us down, you know, all that stuff, just because we could get around. I mean, it's who would think you could stutter and have a monster hit like that? But
That, and it's got, of course, that classic line, "I hope I die before I get old."
Get old.
exactly,
You know?
that's one of the top 10 lines in all of rock history. It's got to be.
Yeah.
You know, it just says so much. Hope I die before I get old. And then talking about my generation, you know, just had to be on my list, so I got it in there. Number 10, number 9, I Can See for Miles. I like Steve's version or explanation of what it means. My interpretation: a guy who's insecure in his relationship. I know you deceived me. Now here's a surprise. I know because there's magic in my eyes. And then he's talking about the Eiffel Tower and the Taj Mahal are mine to see. You thought I would need a crystal ball to see right through the haze. I can see for miles and miles. Just a beautiful Who song. You took advantage of my trust. You were holding lots of other guys, so he's paranoid. You've got the nerve to say you want to be with me. Well, that may well be, but you got to stand trial because all the while. So he's like a power guy. He wants to keep his eye on his woman and while he's away. And great song. And what can you say? When that comes on the radio, I'm all in. Number 8 is kind of a fun song, but I put it on anyway. From 1975, Squeeze Box. I like that country vibe. The guitar picking. The squeeze box is referred to as an accordion, but it's got that double meaning, the sexual innuendos. It's catchy as hell. Mama's got a squeeze box she wears on her chest, and when Daddy comes home, he never gets no rest. Just love that stuff. She goes in and out and in and out. Anything that's got that sexual undertone and you can play it and get away with it on the radio, it's cool. Daddy Never Sleeps at Night. It's a naughty little number, but I like it a lot. Number 7 is 515 from Quadrophenia. This is it's just a great rock song. The drums with Mr. Moon again. It's got everything. It's got Entwistle's bass line, the whole 9 yards. Great guitar licks. There you go. Glen's got it up. You got even some horns on there. The sexual lyrics. Girls of 15 sexually knowing. Pretty girls digging prettier women. Just little shots on the bus or the train. It's got drug references, uppers and downers, either way. Blood flows. I like that little line. It's full of anger, confusion, violence, sexual frustration. Why should I care? It's got that apathy going. Why should I care? Number 6, Glenn had it earlier. Who Are You? Probably the latest song I have on my list from 78. The swear word, of course. And this is a night out drinking with one of the Sex Pistols. Evidently, that's where the inspiration of the song. It's got the feisty lyrics, the English slang, taking the tube back to the city, that attitude. I spit out like a sewer hole. I remember throwing punches around. It's that feisty little attitude that the Who bring. And it stood the test of time. I think it's a great rock anthem. You know, it's one that who are you and who the F are you? I just love it. So that's my 10 through 6.
Good choices.
Really good choices.
Now we're going to go to number 5. We're going to do these solos. So we're going to do 5 from Glenn, and then we'll work our way around town until we get down to number 1 and take our time with this a little bit because these are their top songs. Glenn, what do you have at number 5?
First of all, I got a comment. Quadrophenia is my favorite Who album, and I never picked one song in my top 10 from Quadrophenia.
Isn't that amazing? How about that?
That's weird, eh?
Mhm.
I had a few in there, and they kept moving down the list.
Yeah.
But as a whole album, that's my favorite. My number 5 is the most recent Who song on my list. You Better You Bet from Face
It's a good one.
Dances.
It's a good one.
I freaking love that song.
I do too.
And I've heard like there's versions of Townsend doing it, solo, and there's just every version. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just a great tune. And there's that line about your dog keeps licking my nose and chewing up all my records. Perfect.
That's a great song.
The Girlfriend from Hell.
I don't know why. Maybe I have
Had a few of those.
I thought for the longest time that was a Townsend solo record. I don't know why. And then, but it's a Who. It's on 1980. It's on Face Dances, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my number 5, and I have another song off that one that'll probably end up in honorable mentions at the end.
Okay.
So
Cool.
we won't talk about it now, but yeah, you better.
Yeah,
You bet.
we'll bring that up later if nobody else mentions it. Gary, what do you have at 5?
Yeah, well, first off, I wanted to point out how, do you ever notice when we do these that Rich always seems to pick the sexual innuendo songs? So
Yeah.
I'm going by that. I'm thinking that your number 1 song is going to be Pictures of Lily. So we'll see if that's the case or not.
Good guess, but incorrect.
And his favorite album by them is It's Hard.
That was good.
Yeah.
Okay. My number 5 is, well, it's their big behemoth, and that's Won't Get Fooled Again. The only reason why, maybe a little bit of oversaturation has kind of lowered it for me a little bit, but I can still rock out to that song, and it's just so well done.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure somebody else is probably going to have it on their list and talk about it, but I love the line, "Meet the new boss, same as the old boss." That's, I mean, who hasn't ever thought that in their mind, whether you're talking about politics or you are actually talking about a new boss? There's lots of ways to take that. I mean, I think, of course, all those songs were off of his abandoned Lifehouse project, which nobody is ever completely clear on what the concept was on that. But they took all those songs and they ended up on Who's Next. So their meanings on some of those songs are very much open to interpretation. I have,
I have an entire book. It's probably that thick about the Lighthouse Project. I read it and I still don't know what it was about.
Yeah.
But of course, that song is probably, that might be Keith Moon's most famous moment, when all the keyboard things are going and then he finally comes in. Wow, he's got that scream in there.
The scream, man.
The most famous scream in rock.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, best scream ever on recorded music.
Yeah,
For sure.
It's, you listen to it and you can tell that it's kind of like double tracked or whatever, but it's awesome. I mean, it's such a fantastic, iconic scream that if nothing else, that song could be in the top 10. But the lyrics are great. Just the way that that synthesizer goes through the whole song and they're playing along with it. Just genius. Great song. Won't Get Fooled Again.
And Who's Next might have the greatest opening and closing tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are good bookends. Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Tough to beat.
Mhm.
All right, Steve.
All right, number 5 for me. It's singers like Roger Daltrey. It's hard to pick, their shining moment. I don't know if this song is it, but it's certainly in Team Photo, and that's Love Rain Over Me.
I knew he was going to say that.
Thank you for picking a Quadrophenia song.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of Quadrophenia, so.
Oh.
Yeah, but to me, Pete Townsend, he may be the most efficient lyricist there is. He says a lot in very little words. I mean, this song to me is a perfect example. He's got On the Dry and Dusty Road, the nights we spent apart alone. I need to get back home to cool, cool rain. I can't sleep and I lay and I think the night is hot and black as ink. Oh God, I need a drink of cool, cool rain. I mean, on the surface, put all those words together. They're very simple words. But to me, it paints a great visual, and Daltrey gives a great deliverance. So that is my number 5.
Excellent.
Good choice.
Great. That's going to be on my list at some point. My number 5 is Bargain.
Wow.
I just like this spiritual enlightenment that talks about here. It's brought on by addiction and alcohol, drugs. I'd gladly lose me to find you. To win you, I'd stand naked, stoned, and stabbed. I'd call that a bargain, the best I ever had. So he's negotiating, I guess. I look at my face in the mirror. 1 and 1 don't make 2. 1 and 1 make 1. Evidently, he used a Gretsch guitar given to him by Joe Walsh in this song. So that's a little side note. Always liked the song. Fits into the album well.
Mm-hmm.
And had to get it on here. I don't know. Maybe my order isn't right. If I look at it now, today, some of the songs I had in my 6 through 10, I like better than Bargain. But when I made my list up, it came in at number 5. So that's just the way it works.
Bubba O'Reilly's a hard song to follow when you're sequencing an album, and Bargain fits in perfectly there.
It does fit in perfectly. That's why it's a great album. The sequencing is just phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite Who album. Who's Next? I do like Quadrophenia too, and I like Tommy, but I got to go with Who's Next, Landmark, and Bargain is my number 5. So now we're on to top 4, and Mr. Glen Kellaway.
Okay, this is one where I came to realize how much I love it just over the past couple of weeks preparing for this video and listening to a ton of Who. The Seeker. What a great song. It was from 1971. I think the only album it is on is a comp with Meaty, Beady, Big and Bouncy. I think that's the only album it appears on. But again, there's a lyric in that song. I asked Bobby Dylan, I asked the Beatles, I asked Timothy Leary, and he couldn't help me either. And I love that verse. And the Seeker. It's just they call me the Seeker. I just been searching low and high. Yeah, great tune. So that's my number 4.
That's
Very
awesome.
good.
Okay, my number 4, it's already been talked about, but Who Are You? Title track off that album. That might be one of Keith Moon's last great moments there on record. By the time they were doing the Who Are You album, Keith Moon had deteriorated quite a bit in his drumming skills. They had a hard time making that record. They had a hard time making that song. I know Pete had said that Keith would come in and, they would try to do songs and he couldn't keep a beat. He kept messing up and he'd say, I'm working on it. I'm still doing it. And he goes, I might not be able to do this, but I'm still the best Keith Moon out there. He could still do his roles and stuff and everything like that. But you can hear it. You can hear it on that record. You can hear it even further back. Really, like if you listen to, there's different songs of the Who. Like I won't talk about it too much in case one of you guys has it, but the song "Joined Together."
Mm-hmm. Great song.
You listen to that, and there is no drum keeping the beat on the verses of it. It's just, the Pete Townsend is keeping the beat. I think, like with the synthesizer type thing that's in that song. Keith doesn't even really play until the choruses. There's a big difference of later Keith Moon than early Keith Moon, and you can really hear it. You can really hear it on the records. And if he hadn't passed away, they couldn't have went on with Keith Moon. Everybody talks about how great he was and everything, and I'm not saying he's not, but he wasn't a disciplined drummer per se, and the fact of all the drugs and alcohol had really taken the toll on him. And even if he would have lived, they would have been a shambles to try to go on with Keith Moon. But anyway, back to that song. And I just hear that in that record. That's why I'm bringing it up. And you can hear it in that song. He's still doing some good fills in there or whatever. But it's one of his last good moments. You're right, Rich. You talked about how Pete was talking to different members of the Sex Pistols, was the inspiration for that. He was drunk out of his mind. He wasn't even sure which members of the Sex Pistols he was talking to, but he was going up to all of them and he's going, "Who the fuck are you?"
Yeah.
Like that. "Who do you think you are?" Knocking. But he also thought that the Who were done at that point, because he thought punk rock had taken the place of dinosaur bands like the Who, not realizing that punk rock was actually a very short-lived popularity type thing, and that the Who would survive, and if nothing, actually it re-energized some bands. But that song, the lyrics are fantastic in that song, and it's still a rocking song. It's got the moment in it, like "Won't Get Fooled Again," where it gets real slow and everything, and then it comes back in, dum dum dum, boom, bam, dum, dum,
Great song.
typical big bombastic Who fashion. Just a great song. I that one's been overplayed, but I still love it. I can still get into that song.
Yeah.
Who Are You, number 4.
Great one.
All right. Number 4 for me, despite Gary's disapproval of Keith Moon's drumming, is Joined Together.
Good
Love that
call.
song. I love that song.
It is a great song.
I love the song too.
Yeah, it's another non-album single. Actually released one day before my birthday in 1972. So
There you go.
yeah, I turned 16 that summer, and I mean, I can remember hearing that song all summer long. Hit number 9 in the UK, 17 in the US. It's a song that's very much, a call to arms. Great song live. In fact, I've seen the Dead Daisies do that live. They do a really good version of that. You've seen Dead Daisies live, haven't you, Gary?
Yeah, they didn't do that song.
Oh, they didn't do it. Oh, well, this was with Karabi when they did it. Okay, you saw the newer version with Glen Hughes. So, okay, yes. So that is my number 4, Joined Together.
I love that song.
Great. I'm going to go number 4, Behind Blue Eyes from Who's Next. Like you guys said, it starts out one way and ends up another. It starts out as a lament, really. No one knows what it's like to be the bad man, to be the sad man behind blue eyes. No one knows what it's like to be hated, to be fated to telling only lies. Just beautiful lyricism in here. But my dreams, they aren't as empty as my conscience seems to be. I have hours only lonely. My love is vengeance. It's never free. And then it goes into the jam, the harder rock stuff. It's basically about a flawed human being behind those blue eyes. That's what you see. But what's going on inside? There's bitterness. No one knows what it's like to feel these feelings like I do, and I blame you. There's resentment, revenge. No one bites back as hard on their anger. None of the pain and woe can show through. And then I think it was Steve that had the line, "If I swallow anything evil, put your fingers down my throat. And if I shiver,
wish I wrote that line.
Yeah, it's a great line. If I shiver, please give me a blanket. Keep me warm. Let me wear your coat." So a little empathy in there. It's just a dark, comforting masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. And that's why it gets a high place on my list. I think it's one of their top songs. Behind Blue Eyes.
Very good.
Yeah.
So we're down to the top
Top
3.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going with another kind of hit from the 60s. I'm not sure how far this was up on the charts, but I just love this song, Magic Bus. Kind of got that
I think
Bo
it did pretty
Diddley
well. I
riff.
think it was pretty well on. I don't have the charts in front of me, but I remember it being a pretty
It
good
used to
hit.
get a lot of airplay for sure.
Sure.
And the long version's awesome. The radio single edit is fine, but the long version is amazing. Yeah, Magic Bus. I just catchy tune. What else can you say?
Very
Great
good.
song.
I'm just
All
gonna.
right.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Gary.
My number 3, Steve did a pretty good job already talking about this. Love Reign Over Me.
Oh yeah.
I think this is probably my favorite Roger Daltrey vocal performance. And the great thing about it is that is not the way Roger sings it is totally not the way Pete Townsend envisioned it when he wrote it. He wrote that song. He thought it should have been sung like very more quiet in a soft way. He thought that's how the words were supposed to be conveyed by that character. And when Roger Daltrey went in and just kind of, sang it the way he did, at first Pete Townsend was like, no, this is not what this song is supposed to be. Luckily, the producer, engineer, whatever, talked Pete Townsend out of it, saying, no, just listen to it. Listen to what he's doing on this song, how he's going at it and how great this sounds. And Pete finally had to realize he kind of said, yeah, I guess it really is good. And that's an amazing thing about the Who. Pete Townsend's writing all these songs. Roger Daltrey is interpreting them. And he doesn't always do it the way Pete Townsend has it in his mind. And when you hear Pete Townsend do some of those songs on his own, you see that. But then I think for the most part, not always, but I've always thought Roger Daltrey does such an amazing job. And he doesn't even, when they talk to him, Roger Daltrey doesn't even necessarily envision the song the way that Pete wrote it. He doesn't think of it the same way, even though Pete's the one that writes the song and tells him in his mind, he's thinking of it differently. And he sees himself as the character a lot of times when Pete's writing that. And I think that makes it great. A lot of times those songs wouldn't, as great as Pete Townsend is, if he was singing some of those songs, we never would be talking about them like we are now.
Yep.
I like Pete Townsend's voice. I like him singing, but there's only one Roger Daltrey. And I think this song, we just talked about the scream on Won't Get Fooled Again. Now that scream at the end of Love Reign Over Me, boy, that matches it. And that just sounds like, to me, that's just one live take there. I don't know, maybe not, but it doesn't sound like it's overtracked or anything. That's just amazing. And, when you hear them do that live, especially, a little bit earlier on, when Roger still had that voice, that's just got it. It's amazing the way Roger Daltrey just pours himself into that performance of that song. It's just fantastic. The desperation that he has in his voice as he sings it. It's his best vocal performance in my mind. So that's my number 3.
I've never, I had never heard that story before about Pete envisioning that song more melancholy or something. I don't know but just think how dramatically different that album would have been.
Yeah.
If they would have done it the way
because
Pete Townsend.
That's the last song. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Great interpretation. I love that song, obviously, but good choice by Roger to do it his way.
Yeah. All right, number 3 for me. I think Gary's the only one so far that has picked this, and that is The Real Me from Quadrophenia. It's strange that Quadrophenia, I'm not a big fan of the album, but 2 of my top 5 songs are from Quadrophenia. It's kind of like you, Glenn. Quadrophenia is your favorite album. You don't have any. I'm just the exact opposite. Yeah, I mean, if a bassist ever owned a song, this is the song. I mean, John Entwistle, and he did this on the first take. He was really kind of screwing around, and they all loved it. So they said, "Okay, let's keep this." And when I was in a band, we used to play this song, and I played bass. Well, there were a lot of drop notes. I mean, believe me, I wasn't even getting close to what John Entwistle was playing. Because for one, there's no repetition in it. I mean, it's just he's almost playing a solo throughout the entire song.
Mhm.
And Gary, you touched on it. The song, it's about Jimmy the character. He has these 4 distinct personalities, and it's just it's a great song. I mean, I think my favorite part is right after the line when it's the girl I used to love, and then Entwistle starts going crazy on the bass. So that is my number 3.
Outstanding. Before I jump into my number 3, I quickly looked up Magic Bus. We're debating how much success it made it to number 10, actually. So it was a top 10 hit. I remember it being a pretty strong single in those days.
Mhm.
My number 3 is the same as Gary's. Love Reign Over Me.
Jeez, I'm
From Quadrophenia.
mad at myself for not picking it in the top 10.
I just think
Jeez, Glenn.
it's just a strong, and I agree. It's Daltrey's best vocal performance. No question. I had that written down at the top of my chart here. Beautiful song. He belts it out with such emotion. It's very forceful at times. Lyrically strong too. Only love can make it rain. The way the beach is kissed by the sea. Only love can make it rain. Like the sweat of lovers laying in the fields. And then he goes, ah! Just a gem. Just the way he says love. I mean, that's such emotional, and I don't know. It's a beautiful version, and I'm glad he did it his way. I don't even know what Pete's interpretation or intention was of the song, but Daltrey really brings it on that song, and I think it's clearly one of their best songs.
Yeah. If this wasn't just coffee, I try to do one of those screams right now, but I don't
It's
have
too
the
early.
courage.
It's too early in the day. If it were like
Don't hurt
midnight, I'd
yourself.
start howling, but I'm not ready right now.
Let's all do it at the same time. We'll all try it.
Yeah,
That's why we'll end the video.
great stuff. All right.
I'm up for number 2.
Yes, sir.
Love Reign Over Me.
Hold an audible.
Well, you guys have all mentioned it. I think Pete Townshend's greatest lyric, Behind Blue Eyes.
Yeah.
And probably his most beautiful song, which then turns into, a rock classic. But it starts off as a ballad, just beautiful. Rich, you explained the song perfectly. The
I agree
lyrics
with
are
you.
amazing. Behind Blue Eyes, no one knows what it's like. And just I don't know what else to say. You guys have already talked about it.
Great choice.
And my favorite song off of Who's Next. Every song on that album is fantastic. That's my favorite. And like I said, that's my favorite Who lyric. So number 2, Behind Blue
Excellent.
Eyes.
Can't argue with it. Great song.
Well,
Gary.
my number 2, the only thing I'll add is when my fist clenches, crack it open before I use it to lose my cool. That's my number 2. Behind Blue Eyes. We've all talked about. We matched again there, Glenn. I can't say any more that already hasn't been said. Just fantastic, perfect song.
I think it's the only song all 4 of us picked.
Tells you a lot.
So
Yeah.
far.
Yeah. So far.
Yes. Number 2 for me, Bob O'Reilly. One thing that amazed me about this because Who's Next is 50 years old this year.
Right.
I haven't even heard a hint of a 50-year anniversary edition.
No.
I don't know if anybody else has, but
No.
it kind of surprises me for an album of that importance. But anyway, so Bob O'Reilly, opening track, like you said, Glenn. They couldn't have picked a better song as an opening track. Also known to those less in the know as Teenage Wasteland. But to me, it's just another example of Townsend saying a lot in very few words. Let's get together before we get much older. It's just it's another one of his great lines. So yes, that is my number 2.
Great
My
song.
number 2 was mentioned early on, and that's Won't Get Fooled Again. what can you say? This is a classic rock anthem, a Who staple, anti-establishment, rebellion, revolution. Anybody that listens to rock music is going to love this song. I mean, we'll be fighting in the streets with our children at our feet, and the morals that they worship will be gone. And the men who spurred us on sit in judgment on all wrong. They decide, and the shotgun sings the song. I like that little forceful lyric too. And then I tip my hat to the new Constitution, take a bow for the new revolution. Just awesome. Pick up my guitar and play just like yesterday. And I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. And then he lets out that scream, yeah, doo-doo-doo. And just awesome guitar playing from there. The windmill stuff comes into play. He's got everything going on. Just a total great performance by the band on that. Everybody's at the top of their game. Love that song. So that had to be high on my list. I only have one better, and we'll find what that is soon.
Okay.
That's killer.
Yeah.
My number one. Am I ready for number one? Is this
Yes,
it?
you are.
Yep.
This is it.
Drum roll. It's already been picked by a couple of you. I Can See for Miles.
Yeah.
It's been my favorite Who song forever. From the first moment I ever heard it on the radio, it was just so powerful.
Yes.
What's that? 1967, I think. It was one of the
Yep.
I think
most powerful
67,
rock
yeah.
songs that I think ever been on the radio. I mean, it just
Yeah.
it could almost be the grandfather of heavier rock music. And Keith Moon's performance in that song is freaking unbelievable. And didn't they not? Is that not the live song they did on the Smothers Brothers when they blew up
the amp?
I think it was.
I can't remember if that
Keith
was
Moon, they used too much gunpowder or something and just about killed
Right.
everybody. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I Could See for Miles, but yeah, that's my number one. I've been listening all week again, and I can't find a song I love more than that by the Who.
Great one.
That's a great one. That's cool. Okay, my number one, it's been mentioned, Bob O'Reilly. I think that's a fantastic song. I don't know what else to say about it. It's got that great combination of that whole keyboard intro that he's got coming in there, then the piano, dum, 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 sounds very majestic. And then the guitar comes in and the drums, and it's like, hey, now it's a rock song going.
Here we go, baby. Yep.
Yeah. And everything about it is grandiose in that song. I love it. I love the phrase, it's only teenage wasteland.
Yes.
Evidently, he was inspired when he looked out at the crowds at Woodstock, is where, because they were all wasted, and teenage wasteland. That's where that came into his head. And I love the violin solo that they put in there at the end, how they do that. And it just keeps dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun,
that's
dun,
killer.
dun, dun,
I love that. It's
and
cool
it's
as
almost
hell.
like,
Yeah,
you can think of like the Russian guys dancing like
Yeah.
this.
yeah.
But what I like when they do it live, and Roger Daltrey does a harmonica solo in there, and I think that's really awesome too when they do it like that. But yeah, we've already talked about it on a lot of guests, but that's my number one, Bob O'Reilly.
Awesome. The end of that song with a violin, it reminds me of a famous Duke Ellington song called Caravan. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's like a gypsy kind of a thing. It's like
No.
It's just kind of like almost like a jig or something in some ways. It sounds kind of gypsy like. It's very cool.
Definitely. And then it gives them that extra, it separates them from the average band, because who else would put that in there? I mean, normally you just keep continuing on with the rock stuff, and then whoever's idea that was to throw that in at the end with the violin, it adds some spice to the song. It's just fantastic. Steve, what's your number one?
Well, it's pretty obvious. Won't Get Fooled Again.
Yeah.
You know what? This song I approached the same way I did Stairway to Heaven when we did Led Zeppelin. First it was, well, I have to have it on the list. And then it just kept working its way up until, to me, it found its appropriate spot. To me, it's just 8.5 minutes of pure rock and roll brilliance. I think you can have your Street Fighting Man and Born to Run. I think this is the greatest rock and roll anthem of all time. I have not grown tired of it. I very rarely listen to the radio. I mean, if I hear radio, it's just because I'm switching between CDs in the car. That's it. I mean, that's the only time I hear the radio. So yeah, you know, and it doesn't matter who you vote for. Truer words were never spoken. It's all about the hollow promises of politicians. And so Pete Townsend, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. I salute you. He
I'll
nailed
give him a
it.
salute.
He nailed it. Yes.
Yeah, great choice. I had it number 2. I think we had
Yeah.
our 1 and 2 flip flop because I have my number 1 the same as Gary, and that's Baba O'Reilly.
Yeah.
I tend to like opening tracks off my favorite albums, and Who's Next? Baba O'Reilly. I mean, come on. And this has both guys in here. You got Daltrey singing most of the song, and then Townsend interjects with "Don't cry, don't raise your eyes, it's only Teenage Wasteland." So
Yeah,
they're both
great middle
sharing.
part.
I like how they both have their little the vocal chants at that song, but you know the majority of it is Daltrey. And I have 2 inspirations. One was a gig they played at the Isle of Wight in '69 with all the rubbish left after the concert, and then the other one was the Woodstock. Everybody whacked on acid and wasted out of their mind, and that's where the Teenage Wasteland came in. You know, you throw those together and you've got an anthem. And the title of Baba O'Reilly, I read, is a combination of Pete Townsend's 2 philosophical inspirations, Maher Baba and Terry Riley. And he used those names to come up with Baba O'Reilly, because Baba O'Reilly's never mentioned lyrically in the song. So we wonder where that comes from. Let's get together before we get much older. The Exodus is here. I just love everything about the song. Won't Get Fooled Again could have easily been number 1, but I think they're both the top 2 songs in my opinion. And then, you know, you got your Behind Blue Eyes and Love Reign Over Me right after that. Those are my Mount Rushmore of Who songs. Those 4 particular songs, you can't go wrong. So I think everybody had most of these on the list somewhere at some point. What was the one, Steve, that we had all 4 together? Was it Behind Blue Eyes?
Behind Blue Eyes.
Yeah, Behind Blue Eyes. Yeah.
Is that
Or
the
no,
only?
yeah,
Is that the
that's
only
it.
one?
I think that's the only one that all 4 of us had, because
We
I
had
did not
3.
have Who Are You? You 3 did.
We had that. Yeah.
Um,
What about Love Reign Over Me? Was just Gary and I?
I didn't have it.
Glenn did not have anything from Quadrophenia.
Oh, that's right.
Glenn didn't pick anything from his favorite album.
Glenn and I had, of course, what?
I think we should stop the vid. Can you do me a favor? Can we stop the video and start over? I gotta.
No, we did not.
How much time you guys got?
Anyway, I just want to throw one really killer song that none of us had, and you guys can do the same if you see one. Pinball Wizard. Nobody had
I was just
Pinball
gonna
Wizard.
say that.
Nope.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Isn't that
Yeah,
weird?
probably-
I thought it would show up once, but nobody had it.
Yeah.
That was probably their most famous song for people who aren't into the Who. Would probably, if you had the
Right.
name a Who song, they'd probably say Pinball Wizard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had 5 that just missed, and that Pinball Wizard was 1. Bargain, 515. Pure and Easy.
Rich had Bargain.
Yeah,
I had 515 too.
Pure and Easy, and then My Wife.
Yeah. Glenn, did
Yeah.
you have any that you had it written down as
Well,
possibilities?
there's a song I really like off of Face Dances. It's Follows You Better You Bet. It's kind of a ballad. Don't Let Go of the Coat.
I like that song. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love that song. I had a hard time leaving that off my list. Actually, I like it that much. And of course, the first Who song I ever heard was Happy Jack.
Yeah.
So that's probably just because the importance of the introduction to the band for me. That they'd be the two that stick out.
How about you, Gary? Anything?
Pretty much everything I had. I think everybody mentioned at some point, because the only other one that was kind of on my radar that I didn't hear anybody talk about was Tea in Theater, which again is a later one, and it's just now I like the live. This is why I couldn't put it on there, because it's the studio version. I'm not quite as crazy about as when they do it live, because when they do it live, it's just Pete and Roger doing it. And it's an extremely sentimental sounding song. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it basically sounds to me like Pete Townsend talking to Roger Daltrey, and everything that they've been through in this career. Yeah. So that's another song that I really like.
I've got another one that, it's played on the radio a lot, and I thought somebody would have it. Long Live Rock.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Totally
kind of
forgot about that song.
That's an anthem in its own way, Long
That's a great
Live
song.
Rock. Also, some of the lesser known, not really lesser known, but step down the next tier. Slip Kid, Athena. Everything else I think we hit on here that I had on my list.
I Can't Explain. I think I Can't Explain. Nobody had.
Can't Explain. That's a great one.
Another big one. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for being here today. Gary, Physical Format Rock and Roll. Steve, All the World's a Stage. Glen Kellaway from the Basement. Please sub these guys up. Check out their channels. They're gracious to come on with me and give me their thoughts and views on The Who. Hope you enjoyed our top 10 list. Please leave comments. Let us know your personal favorites if you'd like. And until next time, we will see you. Take care, everybody. Peace. Later.